We begin this amazing series with scenes of hikers in the mountain hearing gunshots going off in the forest. Trying to escape the line of fire, the two hikers rush towards a cabin. However, as soon as they arrive at the cabin, they notice a wild bear headed their way. Before they can do anything, a man jumps out from the shadows and starts fighting the bear, giving the hikers a chance to get away and call for help. The next morning, they find that the man has gone missing, leaving a dead bear behind. 7 years later, Detective Taman from the Nara Prefectural Force questions the hikers again. He finds that the mysterious man who later comes to be known as Juzo Fujimaki, a martial arts specialist, was working as a baka, a guide who helps carry things around for hikers. It turns out that Detective Taman was looking into a murder case that Juzo was wanted for. When a robber broke into his master's house, Juzo used extreme self-defense and killed the robber. Due to this, he became wanted for murder and spent the last 7 years on the run. In a flashback scene, Juzo is seen fighting the bear, during which he gets knocked back into a tree, leaving a bloody print behind. In the present time, the detective notices the dried blood on the tree and asks a forensic officer to test it against Juzo's DNA. He then goes to take a closer look at the bear's body and finds that its jaw and neck have been broken, which indicates that Juzo is extremely skilled and dangerous. He realizes that the move used by Juzo is from Takemiya's school of martial arts, known as the Tiger King. On the other hand, Juzo, who is now in Hokkaido, works for Kurogami's staffing service, where he is given odd jobs to perform in exchange for money. While everyone gets a task assigned for the day, Juzo is told that the doctor wants to see him for one last checkup. In the infirmary, the doctor informs him that he has been healing up nicely from the bear fight. When he hears this, Juzo asks the doctor if he knows who the men who rescued him from the forest are. Before the doctor can tell him anything, his boss, Kurogami, interrupts them and tells Juzo that someone called the sergeant wanted to use Juzo for his dirty work, but until he gives Juzo a job, he will be working for Kurogami. He then shows him a poster of the man that he claims Juzo needs to fight with. As soon as Juzo notices the man, the wolf inside him begins to feel restless. At that moment, a nun interrupts them, and Kurogami leaves with her, leaving their conversation unfinished. Sometime later, while working out in the yard, Juzo notices karate students from the dojo next door leaving as all of the workers stare at them. Before a fight can break out, a man named Ichiro Shino walks out and tells his students to walk away. Another worker tells Juzo that Shino had won the Hokushinkan tournament, deeming him the best fighter in the country. The worker then tells Juzo that Hokushinkan is a high-contact style karate technique that Shozan Matsuo introduced, as well as the tournament that Shino won. He reveals that Shino lost against an opponent in the last tournament, after which he retired and started his own dojo. A dojo that Kurogami was after, because he wanted to turn the students into bodyguards for the Yakuza. That night, a man named Tanba Bunshichi walks into Shino's dojo and takes down one of his strongest fighters without breaking a sweat. That night, while returning home from work, a few of Kurogami's men corner Juzo and begin beating him. Tanba, who had been passing by, notices him getting beaten and decides to help. As soon as he takes all of the attackers down, he senses Juzo's menacing aura and realizes that he might not be as harmless as he looks. Unbeknownst to him, Shino had recognized Juzo and was looking him up on the internet. He finds that Juzo, along with his master Izumi, were trained in Takemiya's style of martial arts. On the other hand, Shino's daughter Chisaki breaks a window in Kurogami's building by throwing a rock through it. As the thugs start chasing her, Juzo comes to her aid and helps her hide until they leave. She confesses that her father had changed after he lost the tournament against a man named Johei, and this was her way of trying to help him feel better, by taking on his enemies. Meanwhile, Detective Taman questions the thugs at the police station and realizes that they fought against Juzo. The next morning, Juzo once again finds Chisaki in trouble as the thugs kidnap her and take her away. They call Shino to mock him before hanging up. Behind them, Juzo follows them into the forest, and just as one of the men slaps Chisaki, he attacks. He easily takes all of the men down just as Shino arrives and challenges Juzo to a duel. The two of them fight while Chisaki rushes to get help. Juzo easily takes Shino down and disappears when he hears people heading their way. Detective Taman arrives with Chisaki and questions Shino about the man he was fighting against. However, he refuses to give away Juzo's identity and claims that he does not know who the man is. Elsewhere, Shozan Matsuo tells his disciple, Himekawa, about Juzo, who had defeated a bear with his bare hands. He claims that the only way anyone can take down a bear is through the Takamiya style of martial arts, in a move called the Tiger King, a move that is known to be hard to learn. He then shows Himekawa a poster of Juzo and reveals that he is Master Izumi's apprentice who was last seen in Hokkaido. He then asks Himekawa to go to Nara. At the same time, Detective Taman meets with a man named Hikita, who works in the Cyber Comprehensive Analysis team, and asks him if he found anything on Juzo. Hikita reveals that Kurogami's stagging service is being used as a front for the Yakuza who have been gathering martial artists. They have also been targeting Shino to recruit him for an underground tournament called Kodoku to find the best martial artist. Back at the dojo, Shino's students receive a tip about Juzo being on Bell Island and decide to go after him since he had defeated their master. Meanwhile, on Bell Island, two officers enter an abandoned building, only to be attacked by a man named Jose. He then goes outside and fights against Shino's students, easily taking them down as well. Behind him, a Buddhist priest called Ranbo says he has a beast within him. Confused, Jose asks him what he means, but instead of answering him, Ranbo asks him to try and tackle him. When Jose goes in to attack, Ranbo disappears and reappears behind him. Shocked to see this, Jose asks Ranbo to train him. This episode opens up a few years ago in the Takamiya-style Izumi residence, where a young Seiko gets assaulted by a robber who had managed to sneak inside when she was alone. When Juzo got home and saw Seiko, the wolf inside him lost control, and he ended up killing the man. In the present time, a girl named Miyaki tracks Juzo in the forest where he is working out. She tells him that she is glad he is back, just as a flashback scene reveals that Juzo had helped her as well when she had been attacked at the bar she was working in. Meanwhile, Jose, who is practicing with Ranbo, is unable to land any attacks on him and begins to grow frustrated since he wants to learn real fighting. But before Ranbo can reply, Miyaki calls them in for lunch. On the other hand, Detective Tanbo gets on a plane to find Juzo and remembers the time when Juzo had shown up at his dojo and easily taken him down by using the Tiger King technique. At the same time, Himekawa meets with Master Izumi and tells him that Shozan Matsuo is trying to revolutionize martial arts and requires his help. He reveals that Shozan thinks there are 3 of the greatest fighters in the world, one being himself, the other is a man named Tatsumi, and the last one is Master Izumi. Shozan wants to discover which school of martial arts is the superior one. Master Izumi agrees, but claims that he has to fight one last person before he can help Shozan. He then asks his daughter Saiko to take care of Himekawa, as he will be staying with them for a while. At that moment, Juzo gets another flashback of Saeko stitching up his sleeve after a fight, and asking him if her father will adopt him since only a son can inherit Takamiya. He had told her that since times had changed, Juzo could only serve as his apprentice. Saeko had then revealed that her father wanted her to marry the strongest man in the world, and if it was him, she did not mind marrying him. However, everything changed the night Juzo killed a man for her. In the present, Juzo takes his frustrations out on a boxing bag until Jose shows up and tells him that he too had killed a man accidentally, which changed everything for him. While they are talking, a group of men challenge them to a fight, and Rambo joins them. While fighting, Juzo almost kills his opponent until Jose helps him snap back to reality. That night, Juzo realizes that he has unfinished business and needs to leave the island. At the beginning of the episode, Jose, who had also sneaked onto the ferry that Juzo was using to get off the island, challenges Juzo to a fight. He goes in to attack and even manages to land a few hits, but Juzo does not hit him back. Frustrated, he wonders why Juzo won't attack him back, but remembers Juzo telling him that he does not fight anymore. He tells Juzo that this fight is not personal, but since he wants to compete in Kodoko, it is going to take more than just boxing to win it. To his surprise, he finds that Juzo has no idea what Kodoko is. He realizes that he can use this to his advantage and once again goes into attack. However, Juzo is still stronger than him and easily takes him down, even causing a bone to break. All of a sudden, a helicopter lands on the ferry, and a woman who is known as the Sergeant gets off. She tells him that by defeating Jose, he has qualified for Kodoko. When he tells the Sergeant that he is not interested, the doctor informs him that he has no choice since they embedded his body with parasites in nanomachines that they can release at any moment, which is also how they were able to track his location at all times. Knowing that he does not have another choice, Juzo agrees to the Sergeant's demands on the condition that Shino and his daughter are not put in danger anymore. The Sergeant agrees, and he leaves with her after assigning Jose as his advisor. Sometime later, Jose informs Juzo that the location and his opponent's identity will only be revealed a few minutes before the match. All advisors will then leave the fighting area and watch from a designated place where they can communicate with an earpiece. This is when the host makes an announcement, calling all of the fighters to the lobby so that the rules can be explained to them. The two of them head to the lobby where Jose tells Juzo that all of the fighters are at the top of their game. Then he points at another man that he can recognize but is unable to recall his name. Just then, a man named Eiji tells them that his name is Ryumaru, and he is well known in the world of sumo wrestling. However, he was caught harassing his apprentices and was banished from the sumo world. Not long after their introduction, the Sergeant shows up on a screen and tells everyone that their fights can be at any time of the day, which is why everyone needs to remain vigilant. There are only 3 ways in which the fight will end: a knockout, surrender, which they are not required to accept, and death of the opponent. Since there will be no referee, Jose realizes how serious the tournament is going to get. Meanwhile, Himekawa visits Shozan to tell him that he will be training with Master Izumi. At the same time, Kuno from the Public Security Intelligence Agency walks in and informs Shozan that the FBI is investigating a gambling syndicate that runs an underground fighting ring. He reveals that Juzo is also participating in the tournament. This is when Shozan claims that he has met the Sergeant who had invited him to fight years ago. However, since he wants to host a similar tournament, he sees her as a competition. Back at the hotel's amusement park, Juzo and Jose notice a fighter named Oleg killing his opponent. Not long after that, Juzo is faced by Ryumaru, who quickly goes in to launch an attack as a masked audience watches them from afar. At first, Juzo manages to dodge all of the attacks, but then Ryumaru stomps his feet and attacks, knocking Juzo back. The episode begins with a flashback of Ryumaru in his master's house, where he is asked to take responsibility for the suicide of a trainee who died because of the stress given by his master. He then loses the mixed martial arts match on purpose. In the next scene, Ryumaru is on a flight, and a reporter notices him. After landing, the reporter tries to approach Ryumaru asking him about the defeat, but Ryumaru gets angry at him and beats him. In response, the reporter gets angry at Ryumaru and calls him a disgrace to sumo martial arts. Suddenly, a guy interrupts them and beats Ryumaru. Later, Ryumaru goes to meet this guy in his deserted hut and gets training from him to upscale his skills. The scene then shifts to the ongoing fight between Juzo and Ryumaru. Ryumaru gives a hard time to Juzo while he tries to fight back. The sergeant and Jose analyze the match from their car. Within moments, Juzo's inner wolf awakens and retreats to Ryumaru aggression. He breaks Ryumaru's arm without any hesitation, and Juzo's beast mode surprises Jose Carlos. Juzo attempts to kill Ryumaru by strangling his neck, but Jose intervenes. Juzo instantly suppresses his inner beats. Meanwhile, Tsutomu Himekawa intends to learn the Takamiya style under Master Izumi. During the training, he gets friendly with Seiko Izumi. Later, he meets his boss, Shozan Matsuo, and informs him that he aims to fight him after receiving training from Master Izumi. Moreover, Tsutomu tells Shozan about Kodoku being conducted by the underground mafia, while Shozan reveals his plan to have a tournament by themselves to single out the strongest fighter. At the same time, FBI agents meet Taemin to launch a joint mission to catch the mafia conducting Kodoku. So far, Juzo is winning all his matches against the opponents. While Juzo eats dinner with Jose Carlos, Oleg passes by them. Later, Mifune joins them, who is Juzo's next opponent. He tells them that his purpose of fighting is his handicapped son, as he is offered a good sum of money for his treatment if he wins the tournament. Also, he mentions Oleg as a ruthless guy, and he kills every person he fights. After Mifune leaves, Oleg also comes to meet Juzo and warns him about their fight. The next day, the match between Juzo and Mifune takes place. The capability of Mifune's son, Kaito, to predict the opponent's next moves makes the match tougher for Juzo as he warns Mifune before the hit comes. The episode opens with Tanba and his assistant walking through the forest to meet Master Izumi. After they reach his place, Tanba introduces himself and invites Master Izumi for a duel. Master Izumi accepts Tanba's invitation, and their fight begins. During the intense fight, Tanba uses a special technique against Master Izumi and blocks his every move. Eventually, Master Izumi falls after Tanba uses a powerful punch on him. With this, Tanba wins this spectacular duel. Himekawa comes to check on his master, who is unconscious and bleeding from his nose. At the same time, Tanba invites Himekawa for a duel, but he asks him to leave it for the future. Later, Himekawa takes the injured Master Izumi to his home. Meanwhile, the intense fight between Juzo and Mifune is going on. Mifune blocks every single move of Juzo with the help of his son, Kaito. Soon, Jose Carlos realizes that Kaito is guiding Mifune through different numbers, indicating the opponent's moves beforehand. Juzo Fujimaki uses his utmost strength to overcome the attacks coming from Mifune, and eventually, he makes him give up. After Juzo is declared the winner of the duel, Mifune encourages him to win the final. Taemin and his team reach the spot of the duel, but find everyone has left the place. Before the final match, the sergeant meets Juzo and gives him the antidote to the eelworms inside his body. She also informs him that his master Izumi was defeated by Tanba, who also attacked Shino's senior student. In the evening, Seiko and Himekawa meet. They talk about Master Izumi's defeat, and Saeko unexpectedly shows affection towards Himekawa. However, he gets a call from his director about Juzo's location and has to leave. Next, Juzo's final match with Oleg Zaitsev begins on a ship. Shozan and Himekawa also come to watch it. In the intense final of the tournament, both opponents put forward their best moves. Oleg badly injured Juzo, but in the end, Juzo uses his special technique, and beats Oleg. After being announced as the winner of Kodoku, Juzo denies the prize as he wants to defeat Tanba. The episode begins with Tommen visiting Master Izumi. They chat for a while, and Tommen learns that Tanba is in Nara to learn Takamiya-style martial arts from Master Izumi. Later, Saiko and Himekawa meet, and they talk about Juzo's final fight in Tokyo. In the evening, Juzo comes to meet Master Izumi and asks him about his defeat from Tanba. Master Izumi says that he doesn't think that the Takamiya style has any use in the modern world of martial arts. Juzo doesn't want the Takamiya style to disappear and asks Master Izumi to make him the heir of the Takamiya school. Master Izumi informs him that there are many other inheritors of the Takamiya style, including Shozan, Himekawa, and Tanba. Juzo claims that he will fight them all. He also requests Master Izumi to ask Saiko's feelings for him if defeats them all. Master Izumo tells Juzo that the school and his daughter are two different matters. At the same time, Saeko and Himekawa appear at the scene. Seeing Juzo in front of her, Saeko confronts him about how he left her in the past. Juzo says that he was scared of her eyes and was unable to understand what they said back then. He returned to make sure what they meant. Saiko tells him that he is dating Himekawa now. Juzo finds a reason to fight Himekawa and leaves from there. In the next scene, Shozan meets Sargent in a church where they talk about how Shozan is going to host the biggest martial arts tournament in the world to determine the best fighter, the Hokushinkan tournament. In the middle of the night, Tanba trains in the forest. Suddenly, Juzo appears in front of him and challenges his Takamiya skills. They begin to fight but are soon interrupted by the siren of a police car. They stop the fight there and leave it to the next time. Later, Juzo comes across Tamon, who wants to arrest him. Tamon tells Juzo that he will let him go if he defeats him in the fight. In their encounter, Juzo defeats Tamon and leaves. The Hokushinkan tournament finally begins with the opening match featuring Tanba, who uses Tiger King to defeat his opponent. After the match, Mifune informs Juzo that his special technique is no longer a secret, as Master Izumi might have taught it to Tanba and Himekawa. On their way to watch Himekawa's match in the tournament, Master Izumi asks Saeko who would she like to win in a duel between Juzo and Himekawa, to which she replies the stronger one. At the tournament, Himekawa is to fight a strong wrestler, Nagata. However, at the last moment, Juzo breaks Nagata's arm and appears in his place. He challenges Himekawa on the stage in front of everyone. The episode begins with the unexpected super fight between Himekawa. Shozan excitedly declares the match official. Before the fight begins, Master Izumi comes to Juzo and gives him his training gear to defend the honor of Takamiya style. As the fight begins, an intense competition unfolds between Juzo and Himekawa. Amidst the fight, police arrive at the venue to arrest Juzo. However, Shozan handles them with the help of his friend Kubo. Eventually, the police agree to wait till the fight concludes. Meanwhile, Himekawa is seen dominating Juzo with his kicks. Master Ranbo, Miyuki, and Jose Carlos witness this duel on their television. Just when it seems like Juzo got hold of Himekawa's ankle, he quickly escapes from his hold. As Juzo's injuries weaken him, he remembers Saeko's satisfied face when he killed her harasser. He realizes that he made a big mistake by running away and leaving her alone in the past. Just then, his inner wolf awakens, giving him unlimited strength. He attacks Himekawa with massive punches before using his special Tiger King technique. Now, when everyone assumes that the game is over, Himekawa surprisingly defends the Tiger King with a rolling thunder kick, knocking Juzo out. As soon as the referee announces Himekawa as the winner, Juzo gets back up on his feet and attempts to fight back. This time, he's on fire with his inner wolf fully awakened. In his mind, He remembers the song his mother used to sing for him, which increases his strength and will to fight. He angrily attempts to defeat Himekawa with a second Tiger King. However, Himekawa counters it again in a relaxed mode. He uses his weight to drop Juzo headfirst into the ground, defeating him in front of the crowd with their jaws dropped wide open. Finally, Himekawa is declared of this fierce duel, and Shozan congratulates him, acknowledging him as the best fighter. Deep inside, Himekawa realizes how close he was to being killed by Jozu, and he has no guts to encounter him ever again. As Juzo opens his eyes, police officers come to arrest him. Shozan tells Juzo that he will wait for him to come out of prison so that they can face each other in a duel. Meanwhile, Seiko remembers how her heart screamed to stop Juzo when he left her in the past. The crowd applauds Juzo for his efforts. In the last scene, Tanba is seen training in Nara to fight Juzo one day. Thank you for sticking to the end of the video. Please check out these other videos and make sure to subscribe and tap the bell to be notified about our latest videos. See you tomorrow.